Has Saudi Arabia broken away from Wahhabism? The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been undergoing dramatic changes over the past 5 years. Much of it has been driven by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, popularly known as MBS. Tasked with modernizing the country, he has taken on the greatest hurdle to reform, Wahhabism, an ultra-strict interpretation of Islam that has governed the fabric of Saudi society for decades.
We were not like this in the past. We only want to go back to what we were, the moderate Islam that is open to the world, open to all the religions. We will not waste 30 years of our lives in dealing with extremist ideas. We will destroy them today.
The 36-year-old styles himself as a reformer and a modernizer, determined to reinvent Saudi Arabia's image on the world stage. And so far, he's done things that previous Saudi rulers were unable or unwilling to do. He's lifted the ban on women driving, relaxed male guardianship laws, invested heavily in the entertainment sector, abolished flogging and the death penalty for minors, and with the backing of his father, the king, he's curtailed the country's religious police. And MBS has good reason to want change. Currently, more than 60% of Saudis are under 35. And MBS says many in his generation want a more tolerant society. To modernize the Saudi economy and finally end the country's dependence on oil, MBS needs their help. It's all part of his Saudi Vision 2030, an ambitious package of socio-economic reform.
MBS wants to end what he calls this oil addiction in order to prepare for a world after oil. He's laid out a vision for privatizing a lot of the sectors within the Saudi economy and breaking up this giant government-owned oil business.
But in order to transform Saudi society, MBS has to confront a religious establishment that has strongly resisted change. First, we need to understand what Wahhabism is.
The Wahhabis took their name from an 18th century Islamic preacher, Mohammed bin Abdul Wahhab. Wahhab was first to see the value in forging an alliance with the able tribesmen of the Al Saud family in order to help spread his austere version of Islam.
In 1744, Abd al-Wahhab formed an alliance with Mohammed bin Saud al-Mukrin, the founder of the Saud dynasty. A pact was made where the Sauds would handle politics and military affairs, while Wahhab would be in charge of all religious matters. And to this day, proponents of Abd al-Wahhab legitimized the political power of the House of Saud by approving succession and endorsing the king's decisions. But MBS says he wants to change that and return to moderate Islam because, according to him, the strict doctrines of Wahhabism were dormant and only started to spread after 1979. That year saw the Iranian Revolution and the seizing of the Grand Mosque in Mecca by extremists.
Khomeini, they cried, we're waiting for you. The Ayatollah is expected to return to Iran.
These men take over the Grand Mosque of Mecca, the holy shrine of Islam.
Following these events, Saudi authorities responded by making another deal with the Wahhabists. Clerics were given greater power over the country's education system and facets of everyday life. The Saudi leadership has also been heavily criticized for exporting Wahhabism to the rest of the world, with money from booming oil exports.
They are the world's largest producers of oil. But they are the world's largest exporters of this hateful ideology.
And now MBS is directly challenging this old guard. He's already sidelined ultra-conservative religious leaders, but there might be more to that story. Foreign Policy magazine argues that the majority of the clerics that the Crown Prince has targeted have been anything but extreme, and that MBS is simply going after those who could challenge his policies and potentially mobilize the masses against his rule. Although spending millions to craft an image as a reformer, MBS has also been mired in controversy. He spearheaded the kingdom's disastrous military adventure in Yemen, triggering what the UN describes as the world's worst humanitarian disaster. He led a blockade of Qatar in 2017, hoping to cut off the tiny Gulf state's economy. He has also detained his own family members and Saudi business leaders, confiscating much of their wealth. MBS called it an anti-corruption probe, but analysts say it was a ruse to silence rivals. And the CIA has linked the Crown Prince to Jamal Khashoggi's murder, which he denies. For centuries, the House of Saud has made deals with ultra-conservatives as a means of survival. But today, at least for MBS, the only way to avert future economic turmoil is to turn against these old allies, because the Crown Prince seems to understand that one day the oil will run out. And if he wants to avoid that day of reckoning, he has to modernize the country.